Okay, we are here. We are live from Nugalokadam. Let's see, why isn't that focusing? Focus. Okay. Let's see, the camera's not focusing properly. Let's see what I can do about that. Hold on 1 second. Oops, I want to do that. Interesting. Ah, there we go. Focus. All right, that'll have to suffice for right now. Okay, so we're going to get started. Welcome everybody to the continuation of the Bhagavad-Gita discussion. And tonight we're going to continue with the first chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. So first we're going to chant Jai Radha Madhava before we actually start. It's nice to see everybody. Oh yeah, just one announcement. We are going to have this class every day. Now, for those of you on the East Coast of the United States, it's going to be 6 o'clock every day in the evening. For those of you on the West Coast of the United States, it's going to be 3 o'clock in the afternoon every day. For those of you in New Zealand, it's going to be 10 o'clock in the morning every day. We're going to get to the exceptions. And Australia, 8 o'clock, except, okay, on Sunday in the United States, it's going to be an hour earlier. On Monday in New Zealand and Australia, an hour earlier. And in India, it's going to be 9.5 hours later than on the East Coast of the United States. So that means the next morning in India, the next morning in New Zealand, Australia, and Fiji. Anyway, you could look it up, and I'll be sending out notices. So that's going to be every day, because I was so excited with doing this Bhagavad Gita last night. I was feeling very much connected with Srila Prabhupada and felt that Prabhupada was very pleased with us for going over his Bhagavad Gita, every single word, that I thought we should continue. And this is going to take perhaps several months to finish. So you're all welcome to join us. If you can't join us one particular morning or evening, you can tune into Facebook. In Facebook, it's going to be recorded every day. And also on my YouTube channel, Veer Krishna Goswami YouTube channel, there's someone putting that up on the YouTube channels. Okay, so let's get started. Let's chant Jai Radha Madhava. Here we go. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopi Jana Malaba Girivardhari. Gopi Jana Malaba Girivardhari. Bhauti Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Jayo Radhamadhova Kunja Bihari Jayo Radhamadhova Kunja Bihari Gopijana Malaba Girivardhari Gopijana Malaba Girivardhari Yashodanandana Rajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Manachari Yamuna Tira Manachari Jairan Madhava Kunja Bihari Jairan Madhava Kunja Bihari. So Jayom Vishnupad Paramahansa Paravaticharya, also Teta Sitashi Shimad, His Divine Grace Abhaya Chalananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, ISKCON Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrind Ki Jai, Namacharya Srila Hridas Thakur Ki Jai. Ram say Kaho Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadha Shiva Sri Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopika Sayam Kun Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai, Vrindavanam Ki Jai, Maturam Ki Jai, Jagannath Sami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Shrimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Samaveda Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Go. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees, all glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Om Gada Timidanda Shah Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshura Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who has so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So we are going to continue our study of the Bhagavad-Gita, and I am going to put the Bhagavad-Gita on the screen right now so you can read along with me. So we are reading from the first chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita, and we're starting today with the 10th verse in the first chapter. And the first chapter is very important too because it sets the whole scene for the Bhagavad Gita and enables us to understand this is an actual historical event that took place over 5,000 years ago. Kurukshetra means the place of pilgrimage. Kurukshetra, it's not reference to the body, as some impersonalists or Mayavadis say. And actually there was a fight over 5,000 years ago, and scientists have actually ascertained the exact date of that battle because there were certain things in the constellation, such as eclipses and other things that occurred during that time, and using computers, the scientists were able to actually go back in time, at least in astronomy, not astrology, because scientists don't study astrology, but in the position of the stars, and ascertain the exact date when the stars were in that position as described in the Mahabharata. So it is an historical fact, and there was Krishna, and there was Arjuna, and there was a discussion on the battlefield, and this is why it's important to read the first chapter of the Bhagavad-Gita. Although there's not as much philosophy in the first chapter of Bhagavad-Gita, but it sets the scenes and helps us understand the whole philosophical basis for Krishna consciousness. In other words, there is a God, there are devotees, and ultimately we become confused when we don't follow the instructions of Krishna, of God. Okay, so continuing with text 10 in the first chapter, and I am going to read the Sanskrit. And let me go page down. Here we go. Aparyaptam tadasmakam balam bhishma virakshitam paryaptam tviram etesham balam bhimar virakshitam. Aparyatam, immeasurable, tat, that, asmakam, of ours, balam, strength, bhishma, by grandfather Bhishma, abhirakshitam, perfectly protected, paryaptam, limited, two, but, idam, all this, ete sham, of the Pandavas, balam, strength, bhima, by bhima, abhirakshitam, carefully protected. So the translation is, our strength is immeasurable, and we are perfectly protected by grandfather Bhishma, whereas the strength of the Pandavas, carefully protected by Bhima, is limited. So, purport by His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada. Herein is an estimation of comparative strength. An estimation of comparative strength is made by Duryodhana. He thinks that the strength of his armed forces is immeasurable, being specifically protected by the most experienced general, grandfather Bhishma. On the other hand, the forces of the Pandavas are limited, being protected by a less experienced general, Bhima, who is like a fig in the presence of Bhishma. Duryodhana was always envious of Bhima because he knew perfectly well that if he should die at all, he would only be killed by Bhima. But at the same time, he was confident of his victory on account of the presence of Bhishma, who was a far superior general. His conclusion was that he would come out of the battle victorious, and this was well ascertained. Very, very interesting. In other words, this is a logical conclusion based upon the relative strengths of both the parties, and particularly of grandfather Bhishma, because grandfather Bhishma could not be defeated on the battlefield. He was the disciple of Parashuram, and he was one of the heavenly Vasus. I guess we should tell that story real quickly. So there were 8 Vasus in the heavenly planets, and these 8 Vasus committed a great error, great offense against Vasishta Muni. One of them, his name was Jao, who later became Bhishma. He was the one who instigated the stealing of Vasishta Muni's cow, Nandini, the desire cow. And the reason he did that is because his wife was nagging him. There's a whole story in the Mahabharata. And Vasishta Muni got really angry at all of the Vasus, all 8 of them, and cursed them to take birth on earth. And they begged for forgiveness, and he said, all right, you can all take a very quick birth on earth, except for the one who was most responsible, who was Jao. He will have to take a long birth on earth. Then the Vasus went to Ganga Devi, and they said to Ganga Devi, will you become our mother? And Ganga Devi said, of course, I will do that, because I'm going to take birth on the earth too, because there was this other king, Mahabhish, who looked at me in an improper way in the heavenly planets, and he was cursed to go down and become Shantanu on the earth planet. And I was really attracted by his look, and I want to be his wife. So, to make a long story short, Shantanu is the king, and he sees Ganga Devi, and it's love at first sight, and he agrees that he will never disagree with her. A nice prenuptial agreement. And then she begins to kill each of their kids, and finally, when she gets to the eighth, then basically what happens at that point, he says, "Stop it." And she gets a little upset. She says, "You disagreed with me. Goodbye. Hasta la vista, senor." And she goes away and raises that eighth kid. That eighth kid becomes Bhishma. Bhishma later on takes a vow uh, not to take over the kingdom when his father gets old, when Shantanu gets old, because he has arranged for Shantanu, his father, to marry another girl whose name was Satyavati, because that girl's father, and Satyavati was ostensibly the daughter of a fisherman, but not really, but that's a side story in the Mahabharata. Because Satyavati was the daughter of the fisherman wanted her kid to become the next king. And so when Bhishma heard this, he went to the fisherman, Matsyaraj, that means the king of the fishermen, basically, and said to the fisherman, I take a vow never to get married, never to have kids, and never to take over the kingdom. And the fisherman let his daughter marry Shantanu. And Bhishma was blessed by his father at that particular point, that because you've done this for me, you will not die unless you want to. So he could not be defeated. And also, as far as the martial arts are concerned, he could not be conquered. But little did the Kurus know about the inside story of Shikandani, which I'm not going to tell right now because it's a whole other story. And that was the way the Pandavas were able to conquer Bhishma. And to understand that, you have to read the Mahabharata. So anyway, but by the calculations based upon what the Kurus knew, yes, they were going to win. Material calculations. So sometimes we have these material calculations and we don't take into account the Krishna factor. Because as Srila Prabhupada said, that for a devotee, impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And there's many stories about that, particularly that marathon in which Prabhupada ordered the devotees to produce 17 big books in 2 months with paintings, with photographs, and Sanskrit and all that other stuff like that. And the devotees thought, well, maybe 2 books a month is possible, but not certainly not 16 books in 2 months. And Prabhupada told them impossible is a word in a fool's dictionary. And actually, you see, what Prabhupada did in coming to the West was materially impossible. But when one has the blessings of the spiritual master, one has the blessings of Krishna, then the impossible becomes possible. As Prabhupada would sometimes say, within the instructions of the spiritual master contain the success potency of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So that's really the point, even though materially it's impossible. And sometimes we see that in terms of the spreading of the Krishna consciousness movement. We think, how is it possible this movement will gradually, let's say, envelop the whole world and everyone will be chanting Hare Krishna, or at least favorable to Krishna consciousness? And people will eventually not be eating the cow. How is this possible? Anyway, the impossible becomes possible by Krishna's mystic powers. Krishna is called Yogeshvara. Yogeshvara means, Ishvara means controller, and yoga means yoga, or mystic powers. So Krishna is the controller of all mystic powers. Krishna can do the impossible. So even though by material calculations, the Pandavas were going to be defeated, please put your computer on mute if you have it, because I can hear someone. Otherwise, I'm going to have to find out who it is and take you off. And that would be That would be sad if I have to kick someone off. So, let's go on to the next verse. Okay, next verse, text 11. Ayaneshu ch sarveshu yatha bhagam avastitaha Bhishmam eva virakshantu bhavanta sarva eva hi. Ayaneshu in the strategic points, cha also, sarveshu everywhere, yatha bhagam as differently arranged, avastitaha situated, Bhishmam unto grandfather Bhishma, eva certainly, abhirakshantu should give support, bhavantu you, sarve all respectively, eva hi certainly. Translation: all of you must now give full support to grandfather Bhishma as you stand at your respective strategic points of entrance into the phalanx of the army. So purport: Duryodhana, after praising the prowess of Bhishma, further considered that others might think that they had been considered less important, so in his usual diplomatic way, he tried to adjust the situation in the above words. He emphasized that Bhishma Deva was undoubtedly the greatest hero, but he was an old man, so everyone must especially think of his protection from all sides. He might become engaged in the fight, and the enemy might take advantage of his full engagement on one side. Therefore, it is important that other heroes not leave their strategic positions and allow the enemy to break the phalanx. Duryodhana clearly felt that the victory of the Kurus depended on the presence of Bhishma Deva. He was confident of the full support of Bhishma Deva and Dronacharya in the battle because he knew well that they did not even speak a word when Arjuna's wife, Draupadi, in her helpless condition, had appealed to them for justice while she was being forced to appear naked in the presence of all the great generals in the assembly. Although he knew that the two generals had some sort of affection for the Pandavas, he hoped that these generals would now completely give it up as they had done during the gambling performances. So, of course, that's a famous story. There was gambling, the Pandavas lost everything, and Yudhisthira even lost his brothers, and then he gambled his wife, and he lost his wife, and then Dushashan, the brother of Duryodhana, dragged Draupadi by her hair into the gambling assembly, and basically Duryodhana first said, you should sit on my lap. And just by saying that, that really inspired Bhima to later on curse Duryodhana and say that I've taken a vow, or I will take a vow, or I am taking a vow to break your thighs eventually. And so what happened is there was the attempted disrobing of Draupadi in the assembly place, and that was done by Dushashan. And none of these great warriors like Grandfather Bhishma, what to speak of Kripacharya, what to speak of Dronacharya, said anything. Because, first of all, let's get into why Bhishma didn't say anything. First of all, I mentioned yesterday he was possessed. Bhishma, Dronacharya, Kripacharya were possessed because they were eating food cooked in a demoniac kitchen. For those of you who like to go to restaurants, good luck, buddy. Or good luck, Davy, because that may happen to you. Someone, all right, I'm going to have to kick that person off. Give me a second to find out who is not on. It just gives everybody trouble when someone doesn't put themselves on mute. Okay. I think they eventually did it. So that's one point, that they actually were possessed. But grandfather Bhishma had another reason why he didn't object. And that reason was quite interesting. When he had actually arranged the marriage of Satyavati with his father, Shantanu, he had made a vow that he would follow explicitly the orders of whoever was the king. He would treat that person as if that person was his father. So that was a promise. And we find in Grandfather Bhishma's history that he was very strong on keeping promises. So you may say, okay, promises should never be broken. Well, I say promises can be broken sometimes. Because there's a philosophy, one of the branches of philosophy is based on, ethics. And one branch of the ethics studies is called consequentialism, which is what we believe in. That one should judge one's actions by the consequences of one's actions rather than by the action itself. For example, and this example was later on given by Grandfather Bhishma himself when he was lying on the bed of arrows. So I'm quoting Grandfather Bhishma. He said, once upon a time, there were dacoits. For those of you who don't know what dacoits are, that means gundas. For those of you who don't know what gundas are, that means criminals, bad guys. Not, robbers, thieves, rapists, whatever you call them. So there were bad guys who were chasing a family. Somehow they were trying to rob the family, kill the family. Maybe they were mafia from Italy. I don't know. But they were trying to chase a particular family to kill them for one reason or other. So this family took shelter inside a sage's ashram. And so these dacoits, robbers, they came to the sage and said, my dear sage, oh one who never tells a lie, where is this family? And the sage said, I cannot tell a lie. The family is in my ashram. And so the dacoits went into the ashram and they killed the family. So was the sage right in telling the truth? No. When he told the truth, he was actually committing violence. He was doing something wrong. So you can say, sometimes you can say something that's not true to save someone's life or to protect Dharma. I'll give you an example from the Mahabharata itself. Krishna, once upon a time in the middle of the battle, he told Yudhisthira, who also was very attached, always telling the truth. He told Yudhisthira to relate to Dronacharya that Dronacharya's son, Ashwatam, had been killed. Yudhisthira refused. Yudhisthira said, I cannot tell a lie. Even if God tells me to tell a lie, I'm not going to tell a lie. Now, normally, between you and me, we should not lie. But if God comes and says lie, do it. If God says jump, ask how high. Don't question. Now, ours is not to question why. Ours is but to listen to God and whatever. So anyway, so eventually Krishna had to make a trick. He had Bhimsen kill an elephant named Ashwatam, and Yudhisthira could say, Ashwatam, the elephant, is dead. And that way Dronacharya put down all his arms and he was defeated. So there's an instance where in the service of Dharma, sometimes one may not exactly tell the truth. Certainly to save someone, protect religion, sometimes you have to do things that under ordinary circumstances are not proper. So Grandfather Bhishma, he didn't know that. Had he known that and not been so attached just to being a truth teller or keeping all of his vows, the battle could have been avoided. Of course, Krishna didn't want the battle to be avoided because it was time to annihilate the miscreants, Pritranaya Sattva. Jai Govinda, you put it on mute, please. Thank you. So, Vinashaya Chadushkutam, that Krishna came to annihilate the miscreants and establish religious principles and protect the devotees. So it was part of Krishna's plan, too. I mean, from another angle of vision. So that's another reason Grandfather Bhishma went along with the attempted disrobing of Draupadi. And, of course, Kripacharya and Dronacharya, they were all compromised, too. Even if you're a Brahmin, if you're compromised, then you won't always tell the truth. So a Brahmana can never be compromised. Compromise means, financial considerations, position considerations. And I'm seeing that nowadays in the political sphere, trying not to mention any names, where there's certain political leaders that are advised by medical personnel about this virus, and the medical personnel who know better have to either keep their mouths shut or agree with something they know is wrong when the political leader is saying something because they're attached to their position. Same thing with certain political parties. Because you're a member of a certain political party, then you have to toe the political line. Even if the person who is the head of your political party and you're stuck with him happens to be someone who is basically a manifestation of Kali Yuga, then you have to just do it. So this is what happens when you're compromised in your spiritual practices. That's why a Brahmin would not take money for his spiritual activities, because as soon as you take money, then you'll do things or say things that are not actually kosher. Now, for those of you who don't know what kosher means, I'll translate that: cricket. Not actually cricket, or not actually proper. That's what happens when you're compromised. Very important point being made here in this purport, indirectly, that while we're performing our spiritual activities, we should not be in any way compromised by our own personal interests. For example, if you're preaching, you should not be preaching to people more who have money than people who don't have money. You have to see everybody equally. Samak sarveshu bhuteshu madbhakti lavate param. It's important to see like that. No other considerations. Now, because someone has money, I'll spend all my time preaching to him. Because he doesn't have money, and I'll let him go to hell. Doesn't matter. So you really have to be concerned with the soul when you're preaching Krishna consciousness. And you can't change the philosophy. Like Prabhupada said, that if he called his society International Society for Spiritual Consciousness or God Consciousness, he would have gotten a lot more followers. Or Prabhupada changed the philosophy to a certain extent. Prabhupada never adjusted the philosophy of Krishna consciousness in order to win more followers. You hear that Prabhupada was preaching very directly. Prabhupada came to America, he could have said, we're all one. Just chant Om and be happy. And I'm sure a lot more people would have followed him. But Prabhupada would never spoke anything that wasn't true. And he was completely detached. He wasn't in need of followers. When Lord Chaitanya says, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, doesn't mean we reject these things. It means we're not controlled by those things. Wealth, followers, beautiful people of the opposite sex. It's not that we reject them, but we're not controlled by them. We're not compromised. And so you see so many people in the governments today that are actually compromised and they can't speak the truth. And sometimes when people do speak the truth, they lose their position. But it's better to lose your position and speak the truth than simply be interested in keeping your position and having your whole life become a lie. And this is what Grandfather Bhishma was doing. This is what Kripacharya was doing, what Dronacharya was doing. It's a very important lesson here. And so Duryodhana knew Grandfather Bhishma would stick to his promises. even though his promise was nonsense at that particular point. So, important point. So, text 12. Tasya sanjanayan harsham kuru vrirapitammaha singhanadam vinadyochai shankam dadma vritapavan. Tasya is sanjanayam, increasing, harsham, cheerfulness, Kuru, Frida, the Grand Shire of the Kuru dynasty, Bhishma, Pitamaha, the grandfather, Singha, Nadam, roaring sound like that of a lion, Vinadya, vibrating, Uchai, very loudly, Shankam, conch shell, Dadma, blue, Patapavan, the valiant. Translation then, Bhishma, the great, valiant, grand Shire of the Kuru dynasty, the grandfather of the fighters, blew his conch shell very loudly, making a sound like the roar of a lion, giving Duryodhana joy. So purport. The grand Shire of the Kuru dynasty could understand the inner meaning of the heart of his grandson Duryodhana, and out of his natural compassion for him, he tried to cheer him by blowing his conch shell very loudly, befitting his position as a lion. Indirectly, by the symbolism of the conch shell, he informed his depressed grandson Duryodhana that he had no chance of victory in the battle because the Supreme Lord Krishna was on the other side. But still, it was his duty to conduct the fight, and no pains would be spared in that connection. So the question is raised here, like Prabhupada said, by the symbolism of the conch shell. That's very easy to explain. Conch shell is one of Vishnu's symbols. And one thing is interesting about the conch shell. When it's blown by someone acting impiously, it causes someone to lose their good fortune. When it's blown by a devotee, then Lakshmi is there. Of course, there are certain types of conch shells that are called Lakshmi conch shells. That's true. For those of you from Fiji, the reason I actually got involved with Fiji many years ago was because one particular devotee, Vasudev, was visiting me in Miami. And I gave him, not at that time, but he asked for a Lakshmi conch shell, and I sent it to him. And because of that, I became his eternal friend. So Lakshmi conch shell brings Lakshmi. And of course, after that time, he did get a lot of Lakshmi, so you should look for a Lakshmi conch shell. So anyway, it's mentioned in that whole story, that Tulsi Shalagram Vivaha story from the Puranas, that when someone impious, a materialistic person, blows the conch shell, Lakshmi runs away. But when a devotee, a pure person, man or woman, blows the conch shell, then Lakshmi comes. Of course, nowadays, during the coronavirus time, we don't blow conch shells. We just go with the conch shell because we don't want to infect anyone. But that's the symbolism of the conch shell. It belongs to Vishnu. You know, you got the club, the chakra, and the conch shell, and the lotus flower. These are all Vishnu's symbols. So here, conch shell is being blown to enamor or enliven Duryodhana, but actually it means that Vishnu is going to be present there, and because Bhishma is acting improperly, he's going to lose. So that's the symbolism there. Next verse. Tata shankascha beryascha panava nakato mukaha sahasaiva vyaham yanta sashabdastu malo bhavat. Tata, therefore, shankaha, conch shells, cha, also, beryaha, large drums, cha, and panava anaka, small drums and kettle drums, go mukaha, horns, sahasa, all of a sudden, eva, certainly, of yahan, yata, yanta, were simultaneously sounded, saha, that, shabdaha, combined sound, tumalaha, tumultuous, abhavat, became. Okay. Translation: after that, the conch shells, drums, bugles, trumpets, and horns were all suddenly sounded, and the combined sound was tumultuous. Pretty self-explanatory. Text 14. Tata shvetar hayari yukte mahati syandanes tatau madhava pandavaschoiva divyo shankau pradamatacho. Tataha, thereafter, shvetahai, with white, hayai, horses, yukte, being yoked, mahati, and great, syandane, chariots, tatau, situated, Madhavaha, Krishna, the husband of the goddess of fortune. There's the goddess of fortune, like Lakshmi again. Pandavaha, Arjuna, the son of Pandu. Cha, also. Eva, certainly. Divyao, transcendental. Shankal, conch shells. Padanthamatahu, sounded. On the other side, both Lord Krishna and Arjuna, stationed on a great chariot drawn by white horses, sounded their transcendental conch shells. Purport. In contrast with the conch shell blown by Bhishma Deva, the conch shells in the hands of Krishna and Arjuna are described as transcendental. The sounding of the transcendental conch shells indicated that there was no hope of victory for the other side because Krishna was on the side of the Pandavas. Jayas too, Pandaputram, Yesha Pakshe, Janardana. Victory is always with persons like the sons of Pandu, because Lord Krishna is associated with them. And whenever and wherever the Lord is present, the goddess of fortune is also there, because the goddess of fortune never lives alone without her husband. Therefore, victory and fortune were awaiting Arjuna, as indicated by the transcendental sound produced by the conch shell of Vishnu or Lord Krishna. Besides that, the chariot on which both the friends were seated had been donated by Agni, the fire god, to Arjuna. And this indicated that this chariot was capable of conquering all sides wherever it was drawn over the three worlds. Okay, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory too. Panchajanyam rishi kesho devadattam dhananjaya Pondram dadmau mahashankam Bhima karma vrikodataha. Panchajanyam, the conch shell named Panchajanya, which was taken from a demon actually. Rishika Ishaha, Rishikesha, Krishna, the Lord who directs the senses of the devotees. Devadatam, the conch shell named Devadatta. Dhanam Jayaha, Dhana Jaya. Arjuna, the winner of wealth. Poldram, the conch named Pondra. Danmao, blue. Mahasankam, the terrific conch shell. Bhima Karma, one who performs Herculean tasks. Vrika Udraha, the voracious eater. Bhima actually means one who has a wolf belly. Just like sometimes even in English you say, stop wolfing down your food. In other words, an unlimited capacity for eating. It's described that when the Pandavas were in the forest, that they had to divide all the food that they had in half, and Bhima ate half, and the other Pandavas, including Draupadi, ate the other half. Lord Krishna blew his conch shell called the Panchajanya. Arjuna blew his, the Devadatta. And Bhima, the voracious eater and performer of Herculean tasks, blew his terrific conch shell called Pondra. Now, one thing about Bhima is very important, that Bhima was the son of Vayu. That means the wind god. And when Bhima was born, and when Vayu was called, and Kunti called him down, right after his birth, Kunti by accident dropped him on the ground. And when she dropped him on the ground, he split all the rocks. He didn't get hurt. So he had basically an invulnerable body. It was like steel, or even harder than steel. And it actually became more invulnerable when there was the attempted killing of Bhima. Once upon a time, Duryodhana and his brothers gave some poison to to Bhima in the food. They told him, this is food, eat it, it's good for you, kheer and everything like that. So Bhima ate it, and he became a little unconscious. They dumped his body into the water. He went down, 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 down into Nagaland. And the Nagas, who happened to be his ancestors, some of the Nagas on the side of Kunti, happened to be his ancestors, bit him. Boop. And they bit him, and that neutralized the poison, and they gave him this Rasa Kunda, which made him as strong as thousands or tens of thousands of elephants. I mean, nobody was stronger than Bhima. And, plus he was the son of Vayu, the wind god. Bhima had some very famous brothers. One brother was Hanuman, who was the other Vayu-putra, and the other brother was Madhvacharya, who appeared sometime later. And Madhvacharya was a great acharya in our sampradaya, Brahma Madhva Gauriya sampradaya. And Madhvacharya had very interesting relationships with his disciples, and Madhvacharya used to regularly wrestle with his disciples. I mean, can you imagine the guru saying, okay, my dear disciple, let's have a wrestling match. Of course, he always won. You cannot defeat the guru, even in wrestling. But don't try that with your guru nowadays. That will not be so productive. So anyway, Bhima was an amazing personality. And he was also intelligent. Sometimes people depict Bhima as being just like, some dumb oaf. No, he was a super intelligent. He wasn't out of control, but he was very, very, very strong. So they were blowing the conch shell. So purport, Lord Krishna is referred to as Rishikesh in this verse because he is the owner of all senses. The living entities are part and parcel of him, and therefore the senses of the living entities are also part and parcel of his senses. The impersonalists cannot account for the senses of the living entities, and therefore they are always anxious to describe all living entities as senseless or impersonal. The Lord, situated in the hearts of all living entities, directs their senses, but he directs in terms of the surrender of the living entity, and in the case of a pure devotee, he directly controls the senses. Here on the battlefield of Kurukshetra, the Lord directly controls the transcendental senses of Arjuna, and thus his particular name of Rishikesha. The Lord has different names according to his different activities. For example, his name is Madhusudana because he killed the demon of the name Madhu. His name is Govinda because he gives pleasure to the cows and to the senses. His name is Vasudeva because he appeared as the son of Vasudeva. His name is Devaki Nandana because he accepted Devaki as his mother. His name is Yashodanandana because he awarded his childhood pastimes to Yashoda at Vrindavana. His name is Partha Sarati because he worked as the charioteer of his friend Arjuna. Similarly, his name is Rishikesha because he gave direction to Arjuna on the battlefield of Kurukshetra. Arjuna is referred to as Dhananjaya in this verse because he helped his elder brother in fetching wealth when it was required by the king to make expenditures for different sacrifices. Similarly, Bhima is known as Vrikodara because he could eat as voraciously as he could perform Herculean tasks such as killing the demon Hidimba. And he married Hidimba's sister and got Gatotkacha. So the particular types of conch shell blown by the different personalities on this side of the Pandavas, beginning with the lords, were all very encouraging to the fighting soldiers. On the other side, there were no such credits, nor the presence of Lord Krishna, the supreme director, nor that of the goddess of fortune. So they were predestined to lose the battle. And that was the message announced by the sounds of the conch shells. Okay? I think that's pretty self-explanatory. We'll read another few verses. 16 to 18. And these are describing some of the conch shells. Ananta Vijayam Raja Kunti Putra Yudhishthira Nakula Sahadevascha Sagosha Manipushpakao Kashascha Parameshva Sa Shikhandi Cha Maharatha Dristadumno Viratascha Sajakishcha Parajitaha Drupado Drapadeyascha Sarvasha Prithivi Pataye Sobadrascha Mahabahu Shankhandadnu Patak. Ananta Vijayam, the conch named Ananta Vijaya, Raja the king, Kuntiputra, the son of Kunti, Yudhishthiraha, Yudhishthir, Nakulaha, Nakula, Sahadeva, Sahadeva Cha, and Sugosha Manipushpaka, the conch's name Sugosha and Manipushpaka. Kasyaha, the king of Kashi, Varanasi, Cha and Parama Ishu Ashtaha, the great archer, Shikandi. I'll have to describe who Shikandi is in a second. Cha also, Maharataha, one who can fight alone against thousands. Drustadunya, the son of King Drupada. Virata, the prince who gave shelter to the Pandavas while they were in disguise. Cha also, Satyaki, the same as Yuyudhana, the charioteer of Lord Krishna. Cha and Aparajitaha, who had never been vanquished. Drupada, the king of Panchala. Draupadeyaha, the sons of Draupadi. Cha also, Sarvashaha, all Prithvi Pate, O king, Subhadraha, Abhimanyu, the son of Subhadra. Cha also, Mahabahu, mighty armed, Shankan, conch-shells, Dadmahu, blue, Patak, each separately. So, translation, King Yudhisthira, the son of Kunti, blew his conch shell, the Ananda Vijaya, Nakul and Sadev, blew the Sugosha and Manipushpaka, that great archer, the king of Kashi, the great fighter, Shikandi, Drustadunya, Virata, the unconquerable Satyaki, Drupada, the sons of Draupadi, and the others, O king, such as the mighty armed son of Subhadra, all blew their respective conch shells. Purport. Sanjaya informed King Dhritarashtra very tactfully that his unwise policy of deceiving the sons of Pandu and endeavoring to enthrone his own sons on the seat of the kingdom was not very laudable. The signs already clearly indicated that the whole Kuru dynasty would be killed in that great battle, beginning with the grandshire Bhishma down to the grandsons like Abhimanyu and others, including kings from many states of the world. All were present there and all were doomed. The whole catastrophe was due to King Dhritarashtra because he encouraged the policy followed by his sons. And a few words about Shikandi. So many of you don't know the actual story of Shikandi. When grandfather Bhishma was arranging for the marriage of his brother Vichitravirya, he actually went and brought the girls for Vichitravirya to get married to. And so, because he didn't want to risk Vichitravirya's life, because Vichitravirya was kind of weak. So he went to Kashi and stole the three daughters of the king of Kashi, which Amba, Ambalika, and Ambika. Amba, Ambika, and Ambalika, in that order. And two of them agreed to get married to his brother, Vichitravirya, and one of them, Amba, had been in love with this other king, Shalvaraj. And so grandfather Bhishma said, he wasn't grandfather at that time, he said, you can go back and get married to Shalva, because we don't want you to be forced to get married to someone you don't want to marry. So she went back and Shalva said, hey, I'm not taking you back as charity. He's a proud Kshatriya. So go back and marry Bhishma, because he was the one who kidnapped you. So she went back and she said to Bhishma, marry me. And Bhishma said, no, I've taken a vow never to get married, number one. Number two, even if I was going to get married, I would never get married to someone who hated my guts. Not a good idea, Prabhu. So she went and enlisted the help of Parashuram to fight with Bhishma. Parashuram was Bhishma's spiritual master, as we mentioned before. Parashuram and Bhishma had a fight, and Bhishma won. He defeated his spiritual master, at least his martial spiritual master. And Amba got very upset, and she began to perform austerities, so in a future life she would be the cause of the death of Bhishma. So, fast forward, future life. She was born as the daughter of King Drupada, another daughter of King Drupada. But, complicated story, Drupada was told by Lord Shiva that she was a boy. So Drupada had so much faith in Lord Shiva, he thought, looks like a girl, walks like a girl, acts like a girl, ain't a girl. It's a boy. Lord Shiva said, boy, okay. So he arranges for Shikandini, who was at this point a girl, to get married with another princess. And remember, this is not America 2020. So he arranges this very nice marriage of his daughter with another girl, and the two girls discover they married another girl. And so the second girl goes back to her father, a king, and she says to her father, they're insulting us. The father says, well, I'm going to destroy Drupada's kingdom. So as he's getting ready to destroy Drupada's kingdom, Shikandini feels real guilty. She goes to the forest to get away from the whole thing. When she's in the forest, she runs into this Yaksha, one of the associates of Kuvera, and the Yaksha says, why are you crying, young girl? And she relates the whole story. He says, no problem. I will give you my masculinity, and I will take your femininity. This is an ancient sex change operation. So they exchange, and Shikandini becomes Shikandi. Okay, she goes back as he at this particular point, and everybody's happy. The other king's happy. The marriage is consummated or whatever. And but she's supposed to go back, or he's supposed to go back, Shikandi at this point, to the Yaksha and give him back his masculinity and get back her femininity. And so in the meantime, the Yaksha has a visit from Kuvera. And this Yaksha is really embarrassed, doesn't come out to see Kuvera. I mean, I can understand that. Someone came to see me and somehow or other I woke up as a lady, I probably wouldn't go to the door. I mean, maybe. If it was a gopi, it's a different thing. But anyway, I probably wouldn't go to the door. And so what happens is that Kuvera gets very upset because this Yaksha is his associate, and he curses the Yaksha to remain a female as long as Shikandi is alive. And when Shikandi dies, then Shikandi will actually become, well, she won't become a female because she'll die, but the Yaksha will again become a male. So that's why Shikandi, which is not the same as the movie shows, don't believe the movie, can't believe everything you see in Bollywood. That's why Shikandi was actually a male and allowed to fight in the battle court, etc. But Grandpa Bhishma knew exactly what was happening, and he had taken a vow never to kill a woman, nor to kill anyone who was previously a woman. He recognized that he was a Amba in the past and also born as a lady. So Bhishma understood this whole story. And Shikandi was used as a human shield to get Grandpa Bhishma to drop his weapon. So that's Shikandi. And all these other personalities here, of course, we mentioned Abhimanyu, the son of Subhadra, who was a great hero. We mentioned about him yesterday, and all these other personalities, Virat, who gave shelter to the Pandavas when they're in disguise for 1 year. Andrasadunya we mentioned, the king of Kashi, we don't need to mention him. Drupada we mentioned before, and so many other people we mentioned before. So we don't have time to tell all the stories. But in this case, we are going to end and continue with 19 tomorrow, and we are going to take questions now from anybody who might have some questions. So please ask your questions now, or forever hold your peace.
Guru Maharaj?
Yes, sounds like Draupadi.
I just want to know why Draupadi was not assisted by her husband's 5 Pandavas and anybody in the Periphery when she was attacked by Duryodhana, pulling the sari.
You mean pulling the sari? But Dusha's son was pulling the sari, not Duryodhana.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Why? That was also the fault of Yudhisthira. See, you got two personalities there in this whole story, Yudhisthira and Grandfather Bhishma, who are attached to always keeping their word, even when keeping their word would be adharmic or against religion. So Yudhisthira, he was attached because he said, I have gambled my wife. Even though, I mean, nobody's allowed to gamble someone else.
Mm.
I mean, that's another point. But he was an illusion, too, because of this gambling procedure. Actually, Krishna says Prabhupada said, of all the great gambling, cheating games, Krishna says that, of all the cheating games, gambling stands supreme. So he was bewildered. And you see that also when people used to go to Las Vegas before Las Vegas was open, that they'll gamble away their whole fortune. I mean, I've known people who have lost $100,000 in one night. You know, they make a little bit first and they get really excited and then they lose. And then also, sometimes I go, or when I used to fly, when I went through the airport in Las Vegas, they have all these one-armed bandits, two people operating these one-armed bandits, you know, slot machines. And they get a little payment, and then they just keep pulling the lever, pulling the lever, pulling the lever, or pushing the button, or whatever they do now with the electronic ones. And it's an addiction. That's why we have that regulated principle, no gambling. You cannot get something for nothing. You have to pay. You get what you pay for. So you have to be careful. So Yudhisthira was bewildered because of gambling and because he was attached to the idea of telling the truth. You know, he promised that he had gambled his wife, which is stupid.
Oh.
And therefore, I'm a truth teller. He had this identification of himself as someone who always tells the truth. That's false pride. We should identify ourselves as servants of Krishna. We will do what Krishna wants.
Mm.
You understand that?
Yes, good.
Because of that pride. The same thing with Grandfather Bhishma. He was proud. I'm always telling the truth. I'm never going to tell a lie. I'm always going to keep my vows. But sometimes it's necessary to break a vow. Not always, not usually. Only under extreme emergency circumstances. So Yudhisthira did that, and he held back the other Pandavas. Because the Pandavas, they always listened to Yudhisthira. I mean, you have to understand the culture. I mean, you were raised in Indian culture, too. In Indian culture, you're supposed to listen to your older brother, right? Unfortunately, Krishna doesn't follow Indian culture. He never listened to Balaram. Whereas Lord Ram followed Indian culture. Lord Ram is definitely from India because, and Lakshman, you know, Lakshman always followed Lord Ram. However, with Krishna, you know, Krishna did not follow. He actually did the opposite of what Balaram wanted in some instances that we have record of. In the Battle of Kurukshetra, also in the kidnapping of Subhadra, he basically, I guess he was more American than Indian, so it's kind of funny. He didn't always keep his, but he did the right thing. The whole point is to do the right thing. To save someone's life, you can tell a lie. To uphold Dharma, not ordinarily, but if someone's wife is being harassed, to save her, you tell a lie. You know, it's a no-brainer. But sometimes people get so attached to these cultural norms. You know, just like in India. I mean, another thing we deal with all the time, that sometimes you get people from certain parts of India, and they have to marry someone of the same caste. Certain parts of India, they have to marry someone of the same caste and the same subcaste. Or else their parents won't speak to them for 10 years. I had one friend, she married someone of a different caste or whatever, and the parents considered her to be a non-daughter. You know, I went to the house and I said, how is Devi Dasi doing? They said, you know, we didn't have a daughter. What are you talking about? So, you know, there's certain aspects of culture that are not transcendental. We should understand that. I mean, obviously, we should listen to our older brothers. My younger brother never listened to me and became a devotee. He violated Dharma. Vibhishan didn't listen to his older brother, did he? Does everybody know who Vibhishan is?
Yep.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you know who Vibhishan
Yeah.
is.
Yeah.
Vibhishan is the younger brother of Ravan and Kumbhakarna, and he revolted against his brothers. So here you have that's Krishna consciousness. Yes, under ordinary circumstances, listen to your brother, listen to your mother. My mother told me not to join the Krishna conscious movement. My mother told me she was going to die. She was sick on her deathbed because I had joined the Hare Krishna movement 50 years ago. And she's still alive. you know. I mean, it's kind of funny. Now she tells me, as I told the devotees the other day, she tells me, you know what, my son, I'm a Hare Krishna. I said, oh, that's good. Because she doesn't remember her material past. She's forgotten about that, and all she remembers is me. And especially since I got her for Mother's Day a gift that I can call her on a video call. Now she sees me all the time. And on the gift I got her, it's like a picture frame and has a picture of me. So 24 hours a day, she has to look at a picture of me on with a dhoti with Hare Krishna written on it. The devotee is we have to be very tricky like that. So, the picture says, Hare Krishna, Mom, I love you, Bir Krishna Goswami. And so that's in her picture frame, and she can't change the picture because I have control of the picture. It's in my account, and I can take my app and put whatever picture I want in her house so she can see it 24 hours a day. So I didn't listen to my mother, so here I am. But I listened to my real father, Prabhupada, and I listened to my real mother, Goddess of Fortune, Lakshmi, Radharani, Mother Earth, the cows. You have 7 mothers, and your birth mother is only one of them. So they all get votes, only 1 vote each. And your birth mother gets outvoted by the other 6. So, who else has a
Gurudev,
question? Yeah. Okay.
uh, Gurudev, in regards to,
Can
sorry,
I see
um,
your
yeah,
smiling
sorry,
face?
Gurudev, sorry, Gurudev. Okay, so in regards to Bhishma Dev
Everyone's
making the decision,
everyone is relaxing in class like this, lying back. Like, this is the most comfortable class I've ever given. People eat during classes, relax. All right, I have to learn more tolerance now. Actually, we have a Gurukul. It's online right now, and sometimes the kids put their camera off so they can eat during the class. And the other day there was one teacher, we're not going to mention her name, who just chastised the student for having the camera off. Anyway, so I learned tolerance by these internet classes. So, what's the question?
so in regards to the decision of Bhishma Dev and Yudhishthir to break their, what would seem to be dharma, like lying or gambling, generally we see that to make decisions like that, you consult with a superior, with a spiritual master, with a father, like that. But in Yudhishthir's situation, in the gambling situation, there was nobody to consult that would advise him not to do what he was doing because they were all on Duryodhan's side. And then Bhishma Dev, he was the grandsire. He didn't have anyone senior to him. So how do such individuals protect themselves?
Well, let me look. Krishna, you're still there? Yeah, he's still there. Krishna in the heart. You have intelligence. I mean, there's God-given intelligence. You don't let a lady get mistreated.
Hmm.
I mean, what is more important? I mean, like, brain. Use a brain here. Unless your brain is covered up by, like we said, Grandfather Bhishma's brain was covered up, and Yudhisthira Maharaj's brain was covered up by the gambling fever. Unless your brain is covered up, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. Like, if someone is in danger, for example, let's say if I had a gun and someone is in danger and I can protect them, I'm not a policeman, but I'm going to use the gun. It's not my duty. But in this particular case, it is my duty. I mean, it's a no-brainer. You don't allow the queen of the dynasty to be mistreated like that. And we had others like Vidura who did speak up. You know, Vidura was Grandfather Bhishma's, related to Grandfather Bhishma. He was younger, of course, obviously. Like it was like a son relationship, almost like son,
Yeah.
nephew. But anyway, he did speak up, and he did give higher intelligence. But because he was powerless, nobody could listen to him. I mean, so these big, you know, you have super soul. You're responsible. I mean, there's certain things that are no-brainers, isn't it? I mean, even me, you know, even me, it's a no-brainer. Even my parents who are malechas, it's a no-brainer. They wouldn't just sit back if they had the power. It's a no-brainer. But when you're covered up, and Grandfather Bhishma's consciousness was covered up because of being possessed, as we mentioned before, and because he had eaten food that was impure. You eat food that's impure, and your consciousness gets affected because blood carries the consciousness, and the blood is contaminated.
Mm.
Try that. Get a transfusion one day. Maybe one day I'll give you a transfusion. You'll feel like a sannyasi if you take some of my blood. Temporarily, until your own blood takes over again. So, okay, good
Thank you,
question.
Gurudev.
Thank you. So,
Gurudev, Hare Krishna.
Haribo, oh, it's our old friend, Lady Khan. All right. So,
Gurudev, we both have one question, Radha Padma and me. Can we
okay.
ask two?
Yeah,
Gurudev, my
that's your,
question is, Hare Krishna.
yeah, go ahead.
Gurudev, my question is, in the battle of Devas and Asuras, one of the, I forgot the name, but the sage's wife says that she tells the truth or she lies, I forgot, but she gets like burned to ashes, something.
I don't remember that story right now.
Where she tells the truth. Okay, Gurudev, I'll have to read and then I'll ask.
Send me that particular story. I really don't remember it.
Okay, Gurudev, I'll write to you later.
Hare Krishna, Guru Maharaj. My question was, Pandavas usually consult for everything. They consult with Krishna. But was gambling also a consultation with Krishna?
No, no, because in the Kshatriya Dharma, Prabhupada mentions this, that if a Kshatriya is challenged because of the mode of passion, then the Kshatriya responds to that challenge. There's several different things that are part of the Kshatriya Dharma. That one thing is, and nobody should imitate this, that if a Kshatriya is approached by a lady who is not married and she tells him, you know, proper lady, and she wants to get married, Kshatriya has to accept her. Don't imitate, not for this day and age. If a Kshatriya is challenged to a battle or some sort of conflict or a gambling match, then he has to accept at a certain point. But he can, like you'll see that even, whoops, you'll see that even Balaram was challenged at a particular juncture by Rukmi to a gambling match, and there was a disaster after that for some reason or other. But the Kshatriya, that was part of the Kshatriya mentality, that they did gamble. But at a certain point, they have to say that's enough. And that's the point. But Yudhisthira somehow or other became bewildered by the whole, and this is a lesson for us, you know, when you gamble or play the stock market or something like that, you actually get bewildered by the whole idea of getting something for nothing. I remember a few years ago, there was one devotee who went to the other devotees in Europe and said, you can play the Forex market. You know, Forex means foreign exchange. and make millions of dollars. So many devotees, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of euros got invested in Forex. And I think 99% of the devotees lost everything, mortgaged their houses and everything like that. So it's enticing to get something for nothing. Or like they used to have this thing called the chain letter, where you send $1 to someone, someone sends $1 to everybody on their list, and then you get something for nothing. In my experience is you got to work for what you get in this world, and you appreciate it too when you work for what you get. So Yudhisthira Maharaj, gambling was not wrong for him, but his addiction to the gambling and his not knowing when to stop or when he could gamble was wrong. You don't gamble your brothers, you don't gamble your wife, you don't gamble your kingdom, you don't gamble your army. You can gamble if you trick it. And not that we should do that. That's against the regulated principles. For Kshatriya, in that age, it was permitted. But he got too much into it. What could be done?
Thank you.
Sometimes people get really into something. There's this one king named Chitraketu who really wanted to have a son, and it wasn't his dharma, and he kept marrying one lady after another, and the Bhagavatam says they had like 10 million wives. That may be a hyperbole, but anyway, there was a lot of wives, and he wasn't meant to have a son. And eventually he did have a son, but the son died because the other wives killed the son, and he had a traumatic experience, but that traumatic experience led him to taking up Krishna consciousness. You'll find, I was giving a Bhagavatam class the other day, you'll find in many circumstances, traumatic experiences lead one to surrendering to Krishna. You'll find that many cases, like Bharat Maharaj becoming a deer, that was traumatic. Magrari understanding his future, that was traumatic. Krishna. So trauma sometimes leads one, like this virus situation may lead you to become more serious in Krishna consciousness. Okay? I think that's all we have time for today. Is Krishna Chandra on this somewhere? No, he's not. I don't see him. Anyway.
Yes, Gurudev. Yeah.
Oh, there you are. I'm going to call you on WhatsApp after this, all right? And then we'll talk a little bit.
Yes, Gurudev.
So it's nice to have everybody. Tomorrow night we will be doing this 1 hour earlier. Or tomorrow night here, tomorrow morning, if you're in the South Pacific or India, like that. And if you're in Europe, I don't know if you should be up at this time of the night. But 1 hour earlier, that's tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow for all of us. Here it's going to be Sunday. We have our Sunday feast. Next week, we are opening up the temple, not completely. We're going to have our program in the hall. Everybody's going to be 10 feet separated from each other, just sitting down, and we'll allow 1 or 2 people at a time to go and take darshan of the deities, and the prasadam will be takeout prasadam. So we're going to gradually open up, but with care, and everybody will be required to wear a mask because we are taking precautions. We don't need any devotee to get sick. But we are opening up, and we are enjoying this Bhagavad-Gita class. Thank you very much, everybody, for joining us. Tomorrow morning, another thing is, every morning we will have on Facebook, not on Zoom, our Mangalarti, which you're invited to attend. That's the Mangalarti is at 4:30 in the morning, time here, which is East Coast United States, which means 8:30 at night New Zealand time, which means 6:30 in the afternoon Australian time. Oh my God. Which is, and nine and a half hours later, like at 1:30 or something like that, India time, and European time. Actually, it's a good time for the whole world. And European time, Central European time, it's going to be 10:30 in the morning. And in the UK, it will be 9:30 in the morning. How about that? I think we covered most of the places, not all the places in the world. So you're invited for Mangal Arti tomorrow morning. Broadcast, you get a chance to full screen, see the deities, and then 4:30, 3 hours later, we have Darshan Arti. Some mornings I'll be giving class, not tomorrow morning in the morning. After that, but I'll be giving notices when I'm going to be giving class in the morning. So at least every morning they will be Mangal Arti, greeting the deities, and also, another attraction for all of you, at 5 o'clock in the morning, here's my mathematics again, at 5 o'clock in the morning here, about 5:10 in the morning, till 5:45 in the morning, East Coast time, you're welcome to participate in my deity worship, which will be on Facebook, not on Zoom, Facebook, early in the morning. So that's broadcast, and of course that's going to be in the evening in New Zealand and Australia, and that'll be on Facebook, and you could, some of you have been watching it already. There'll be my deity worship and listening to Prabhupada, either a lecture or a morning walk of Srila Prabhupada. So that'll be every morning too. So we got a full schedule of classes. The classes will be on Zoom, and other things like the deity worship and the Mangal Arti and everything will just be on Facebook. Facebook page BK Goswami Das. And some of these classes will all the classes will be on Facebook, saved on Facebook, and also later on they'll be put on YouTube, on my YouTube channel, Bir Krishna Goswami. Okay? It's a good advertisement. So thank you all for joining us. I'm having a good time reading the Bhagavad Gita. This is really enjoyable, connecting to Prabhupada. I feel really connected to Prabhupada when I read Prabhupada's books, because these books, the translations, and the purports are Prabhupada's devotional ecstasies. So all glories to Srila Prabhupada, Ki Jai.